My name's Josh Streets and we're at Streets Automotive, located in 75 Emu Bay Road, Deloraine, Tasmania.
How long have you been here?
Yeah, so I've been here, it's well over a year now. We started well before Christmas last year, the year before. But yeah, we were trading from home for about a year as well. So probably been a bit over a couple of years trading as a full-time business.
And can you talk about what the history was of this site before you came?
Yeah, so Brian Bartlett was the original Bartlett's Car Centre here in Deloraine. Brian was here for 40 years and he shut up shop about 2006, so around 19 years ago now, yeah.
It's a long time for not a lot happening here.
Yeah, correct. In between that time, there's been time where people have come and sold a few cars in between, but not probably opened up as a full-time yard. So we're the first probably since that closure to get back in and redo the signs, redo the gravel and start to freshen the yard right back up and get it into a full-time business again.
How did you get into car sales and your experience? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been involved in car sales and machinery sales probably since 17 when I would have first got my licence. I've been a farmer the most of that time, but in between being a farmer, it was a hobby to sell stuff. I really enjoyed sales and moving equipment. So what happened is I actually put stuff in this yard about 8 years ago. Just would advertise them in this site and sell them from here. And that sort of opened the door to start thinking about possibly getting the yard and leasing it and going full time here. So I guess it was in the making probably within the last 8 to 10 years. And then now finally we're here and the time worked out well. So even being involved working on a farm, I always used to sell all the farm equipment, got a real good understanding on what things are and what things are worth and able to research them to find out the values of things. So yeah, my grandfather also was a local salesman in Launceston, which was Street City Cars, which was Neil Streets back in the day. So being involved in and around the yards all this time and really sort of grown a passion for sales and yeah, selling and meeting people, really enjoyed that side of it as well. Yep.
What do you think is important in a car salesperson and what are people looking for when they come to buy a car?
Yeah, great question. I think the most important thing is people like to know that they can trust you, and I think that it's hard with being in sales. There are been times when there's been bad taste left in people's mouths about unworthy trusted car salesmen and maybe real estate agents and insurance sales as well. However, we try to do things different. We try to be upfront. What you see is what you get. Local community, a small little rural town, and being honest with people, and being fair as well. So that's what we sort of strive to be. Tasmania is a small place, and it's not something that we want to do wrongly. Yeah.
Why do you enjoy doing car sales?
Yeah, I enjoy meeting new people and getting to talk to people. I love a chat, and I also enjoy just that way of selling and investing in things. I've always been passionate about that, and I've always enjoyed that. So generally, if there was anything ever to sell in the family, they'd always come to me and ask me to sell it. So that opened the doors to advertising and how to list things and the internet side of it, and I started to think I could really make a business out of this.
Can you talk a bit about how it works? How do you get cars?
Yep.
And then they come to the yard and then you sell them. How does that process work?
Yeah, so it is a lengthy process. Basically, we are predominantly all auctions. We do get the trade-ins and we do buy locally off local people, but generally it's mostly auctions. So it's ex-governments, ex-fleet vehicles, which are really good, well-serviced vehicles. Then what happens is that's mostly down south of Tas, so they come up to the north end of Tas and we get them detailed, we get them roadworthy, we get them serviced and any mechanical work that needs to be done, tyres, and then we do the detail. And they get detailed here on site, so we have all the equipment here to do proper details, and then we can list them for sale. And generally that time frame is about 2 weeks for a vehicle to get it up, done and listed. And I think a lot of people don't see that side of it. They just sort of think you buy the car and then you just sell the car and he makes this much on it. We're no different than any other business, like a bakery, for instance. A bakery would buy the mince and buy the pastry, they make it and they make the pie and then they sell it for a profit. We're the same thing. We buy things and we sell them for a profit. But there is a lengthy process that goes into every car. For instance, we wash the cars once a week here. So that's a couple of hours once a week that someone's got to wash all these cars. We are on a gravel yard, so it does get dusty, especially through this summer period. And you just find you might have a car sitting here on consignment that's been washed a few times, and a fair bit of work goes into a vehicle to get it sold. Obviously there are quicker ones, but there is a bit of a time frame that's involved and a bit of a process to get them listed and sold. We don't cut corners. We don't want to just get a car in and rush it out the gate. We want to make sure it's got good tyres on it, that it's cleaned properly, and happy to sell it.
Do you find that people come for a specific type of car? Is there something that's quite popular?
Yeah, listen, when I was a young fella, predominantly we always sold four-wheel drive utilities, flat trays and ute tubs. They are the most popular. So we really strive on four-wheel drive utes and vehicles and commercial vehicles as well. Commercial vehicles are always quite popular. So we're talking about vans, buses and utes again. And the reason being is commercial is for businesses. So businesses are buying the car for their use. So they can claim it on tax. As a dealership, GST is inclusive on all the cars. And what they do is then it's more bought for a purpose, whereas privately bought cars, they're a little bit more harder to sell, I find.
Why do you think people come to you to buy?
That's a good question. With being in Deloraine, we are a small local town and a yard, like I said from the start, but we sell cars. We sell cars a lot to Hobart. We've sold things to Flinders Island and Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. A lot of stuff goes over the water. So to answer that question, why do I think things go that far? It comes back down to price and quality. If you've got your price right and you know it's good vehicle and good stock, they will travel for it and they will buy it. I think if you've got your prices set too high and you're competing with everyone else, they'll just go to a local yard, a big yard, and buy it. So first things first is we've got to get that price right and have good stock. So with our stock, we always chase, clean, well kept, good service history, good tyres and bodyworks of vehicles. And the reason being we do that is we find that that's what's sellable. I like to sell a vehicle that I know that I'm happy to buy myself. And I think that's number one. And then number two is price. People really like the price. So if we can price them just under what all the big yards do, people will travel to Deloraine to buy stuff. I've sold about 3 things to Flinders Island. So they go around, yep.
How do you get the cars seen by potential customers?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So with our advertising, we're on a dealer portal. So what we do is we pay like a monthly subscription. It's like you would with your Foxtel or Netflix. And what that does is they advertise. It's predominantly for dealers. So we advertise on a one dealer platform. We pay a monthly subscription, and then it goes across 3 live sites. So that would be Gumtree, Cars Guide, and Auto Trader. Okay. So there we are. So all of a sudden we can advertise on one thing and get put on 3 internet sites. We find that the internet is obviously the most important thing to the sales. Even when we started back 15 years ago, internet, Gumtree had only just come out then, and everyone was selling stuff on Gumtree for free, and that was a good thing. But now they're starting to charge money for advertising. So being on this platform, it does give us a lot more exposure. And then we've got Facebook as well, which we can put on Facebook Marketplace. I don't do a whole lot of that advertising. I find that it's just another thing to advertise to, and I don't get a whole lot of sales from that one as much. So I sort of stick to what works.
Do you find that Facebook Marketplace tends to use time but not necessarily get the results?
Yeah, I find that. A lot of the other yards in Launceston and around the area in Tassie do use Facebook. So there's definitely a market for it. I just find that I just don't really want to be putting too much time into social media and other advertisements if I don't have to. And I find that I still predominantly get more sales off the dealer portal, if you like, yeah. And then you get the walk-ins as well. So Deloraine's a small town, but we still get a lot of walk-ins. We find that we might catch someone that's come in from Launceston or Devonport or Burnie that's just seen it online and come in as well, unexpected. So we do get a lot of, just drop-ins and see. We even get a lot of the locals that want to sell something as well and drop in and see us. So yeah, that's a good way of doing it.
Do you have any memorable moments, any sales? You said you sold 3 to King Island, which I think was a surprise to me, but
yeah.
any other surprising memorable things?
There's definitely been a lot through the time, and just to remember off the top of my head, I can't remember, but there's been sales that you just would come home and tell my wife and she would just, I've had sales where people could spend hours and second looks looking at a car, and then I've had other times where I've had someone in Victoria ring up and buy the vehicle or the bus in this instance right there and then over the phone. Send us through an invoice and ship it over, and we handle the whole lot. So I've had local people just drop in and their car broke down, so they need a vehicle, and they basically will just buy what they need. So yeah, so buying a car to some people can be a really daunting thing and a really timely process. But then to someone that might have more funds, it's not a big deal. They would just come in and I'll take that car and drive out that day. So you see a lot. Sunday night, I had a guy come up from Hobart Sunday night and picked a vehicle up, and that was about 8:30. Just rang me up and said he's coming up and he wants to buy it, and we followed through with the deal. We came in about 8:30 and he took the car, and he was going to get home about midnight that night. So there's no limit to what you might see with the sale of a car, and I love that side of it. I do get a bit excited on every deal. Every deal's different. Some can be really easy, some can be really hard, but you just feel the customer out and you work with them. What we find is we work with everyone. We work with everyone. I never outrule anyone. I think you treat everyone equal and everyone the same, and follow through. If we haven't got the car for them, then we can go looking for the car, and we generally always try our hardest to put that deal together, to make a deal happen. And sometimes that could be multiple avenues to get the right deal done. Yeah, so we try and put everything together. It is tricky. It can be quite tricky sometimes. Sometimes I go home and tell my wife a deal that we might have had to do, and it might have been a double finance payout, a refinance. It's a consignment car, so you've got a car you're selling on the behalf of someone with finance on it. Then you sell to a person that's buying with finance, so then you need to pay out that finance, and then they generally could have a trade-in as well. So now you're taking a trade-in to sell a vehicle to then buy another one, and it just gets real lengthy real quick. And I tell her, and she can't work that out. But it's just all about putting it all together that it works for everyone. And generally we find out it does too. At the end of the day, you're dealing with automotives. You can't guarantee everything. You can't guarantee every car. We're not mechanics, we're salesmen. But what we find is if you do it right and do your best you can, 9.9 times out of 10, it's gonna work. But you do still see the odd car you might have an issue with, and then it's a matter of trying to work out how we can get these people back on the road as well. So,
Plans for the future?
Yeah, so there are some big plans. Obviously, we've been in it for a couple of years. I've been a farmer for 15 to 20 years on and off with a family business. So I've got a lot of background in that, but I always love sales. So I really want to come back and give sales a crack, and that's what we've done. So we've been doing it now for over a couple of years and really enjoying it. It's grown every year, but the plans for the future is we want to buy this premises. The goal is to buy this yard and grow it. We've got a lot more exposure up the back here. So we've got about 2 rows of cars here. This can handle another 2 rows, so we could probably double the stock here. And then we've got a big holding yard out the back as well. So there's plenty of room here to grow. There's a three lockable shed at the back. We've got a hot wash out the back and a hoist, so we can do detailing like I mentioned before. But there's also that option to grow doing mechanical work here as well. Between that time of when this yard was closed down till now, there has been people in between doing some sales here and there. Even myself, I was doing some sales in here, just on the cuff, not as a business. But there was a local mechanic as well at the back. So there is that premises still to do a lot more and a lot more growth here to do. And Deloraine, I've got total confidence in Deloraine. I think it's a great town. I love Deloraine. I've been here for 12 years. You're surrounded by big farmers, you've got dairy, you've got the crop and farms, you've got a lot of wealth in the town, and the river. That meander river that runs through town is just phenomenal. It makes this town. It's just so rich to this town. It's a good little community, a good little Christian community. There's a lot of little local churches here as well, and I find it's a great little town that we want to grow in. I've said it before, if I had to go to Launceston, I probably wouldn't be doing it. So, yeah.